Come to Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence for retirees looking for an ideal rental setting to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We offer bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, wellness and entertainment programs, all with a friendly community spirit on beautiful grounds. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
An EWTN family celebration in Worcester. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll take you there next.
Dan Dumas will be by with a look at what's happening in the Diocese of Springfield. And a 9/11 survivor's story of his escape from the doomed South Tower. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. Thanks so much for joining us today. For many people across the diocese and the country, EWTN, a network founded by the late Mother Angelica, has been a source of Catholic news and inspiration for more than 3 decades now. Last weekend in Worcester, EWTN went on the road, holding its annual family celebration for the first time in New England. Carolee McGrath was there and has our story.
They are the familiar faces to millions of viewers, the Franciscan missionaries of the Eternal Word, seen on the daily Mass broadcast on EWTN, the Catholic network founded by Mother Angelica. And they were celebrating Mass right here in Massachusetts. Thousands of people converged on the DCU Center in Worcester for the EWTN family celebration.
It's an annual event that the network holds to welcome our audience, bring our EWTN family together, kind of like a family reunion in many ways, to celebrate together, to celebrate the faith together, to pray together, to really allow people to meet many of the on-air personalities that are so much a part of their lives.
The network has been holding these celebrations, which are free, since 2005. Every other year, they take it on the road to a different location throughout the country. This is the first time the event has been held in New England. Michael Warsaw, EWTN CEO and chairman, is a Springfield native and a Cathedral grad. Warsaw hosted an afternoon family talk with Father Joseph Mary Wolfe and EWTN President Doug Keck. The talk gave the audience a chance to ask questions about the many challenges facing Catholic families in the current culture, including family members who have left the church.
So first of all, I think one of the things we always encourage is, like St. Monica praying for her son who ultimately became St. Augustine, pray, pray, pray. It may take a while, but ultimately, we hope those prayers are successful. I think the other part of that is to continue to model a Catholic Christian life. You can't necessarily always attract people by your words, but by showing an example and by your deeds and your witness of a truly faithful Catholic life. I think that speaks volumes, and hopefully that's also something that attracts people and brings people back into the church.
Following Mass, people gathered for lunch and were able to meet many of the EWTN hosts who were present, including Jesuit Father Mitch Pacwa and host of EWTN Live.
How do you keep your kids in the faith, and how do you encourage parents who have fallen away?
You don't.
You don't?
No.
Oh.
Jesus Christ does. This is a matter of His grace. And we therefore have to depend on His grace. It's our effort to be able to speak for the faith. The way I often put it is this: conversion is a management issue. God is management. I'm only in sales. I can give the reasons for the faith.
The theme of the conference this year is celebrating 100 years of Fatima. The Blessed Mother told those 3 little children in 1917 to pray the rosary daily for peace and to offer up their suffering for the conversion of sinners. It's a message still so important today. From May to October 1917, the Blessed Mother appeared to 3 shepherd children in Fatima, Portugal, Lucia dos Santos and her 2 cousins, Jacinta and Francisco Marto. Pope Francis canonized Jacinta and Francisco in May.
The importance of Fatima is that it addressed a number of very specific events of the 20th century, which became the most violent century in human history. 300 million people died in wars or at the hands of their own governments. And Our Lady had warned about that.
Susan Conroy, host of Coming to Christ, also focused on the Fatima apparitions in her talk.
We have it in our power, every single one of us have it in our power to help save souls with the Blessed Mother Mary and to bring peace to our world. And if we turn on the evening news, we can see this is important. There's not a lot of peace out there. We need to start living our Heavenly Mother's messages.
If you clap real loud, he will sing for you.
EWTN also has children's programming and set up a family corner for kids, bringing in the hosts of their favorite shows, including The Donut Man. Many Catholics from the Diocese of Springfield traveled to Worcester for the two-day event. Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Parish in Westfield chartered a bus. Others drove out on their own, including Kathy and Ray Juck, whose son Joe Juck began working for EWTN last fall. Joe Juck was active in youth and pro-life ministry in the diocese.
EWTN has always made an impact. We've always watched some of the shows growing up, even when our kids were little. And then really watching, I remember Ray's grandmother watching the Mass, at 7 p.m. in the evenings all the time. So for a long time, without really knowing, how much of an impact it would make, and now part of our lives, it's been really a help in growing our faith and learning more about our faith and the things that, are important to us.
Throughout the weekend, there was an opportunity for people to go to confession and adoration of the Blessed Sacrament. And even though the numbers nationwide show fewer Catholics are practicing their faith, it was clear at this event that God is on the move in New England and beyond. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
Like the thousands of Americans who went to work in New York City on September 11, 2001, Joe Ditmar never thought he would be a witness to history. Ditmar was one of those who survived the attacks on the World Trade Center towers that day. He sat down with Steve Kiltonick to talk about his harrowing 9/11 experience and escape from the South Tower.
This is CNN Breaking News.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
On the morning of September 11, 2001, 19 militants of the Islamic terrorist group Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 airlines and carried out suicide attacks against the United States. 2 of the targets were the World Trade Center's Twin Towers in New York City. At 8:45 a.m., American Airlines Flight 111 out of Boston ripped into the North Tower above the 90th floor, instantly killing hundreds and trapping hundreds more in higher floors. 18 minutes later, a second Boeing 767 struck the South Tower, near the 80th floor, showering debris over the surrounding buildings and streets below. Later, a third plane crashed into the Pentagon outside of Washington, D.C. And a fourth jet, on an apparent collision course with our nation's capital, disappeared over a field in Pennsylvania. Almost 3,000 died in the attacks, including nearly 350 firefighters and paramedics, and 60 New York City and Port Authority police officers. In the South Tower that historic day was Joe Ditmar. Ditmar told the story of his escape from the doomed South Tower at the Worcester Diocesan Catholic Men's Conference held at Assumption College last spring. His talk was called Free Will and Choice, Practical Lessons from a Day of Destiny. Then a resident of Illinois, Ditmar was in New York attending a meeting of commercial insurance executives.
I was invited to attend a meeting at Aon Corporation that day. The meeting was to be held on the 105th floor of 2 World Trade Center, the South Tower.
The meeting began late, like many previous insurance meetings Joe attended.
It was a beautiful day that day in September, absolutely beautiful September, clear, crisp day. And at 8:48, the lights flickered. We were in an internal conference room, so we couldn't see anything. We didn't hear anything. We didn't feel anything. We just had this flicker of lights, and one of the gentlemen, Rick Blood from Aon Corporation, came bounding into the room. He said there had been an explosion in the North Tower, so we had to evacuate.
Reluctantly, they began to walk down.
You had a critical decision to make at 90. The door to the fire stairwell on 90 was propped open. So I followed everybody out. Probably the worst 30, 40 seconds of my life to look out those windows to the north and see this incredible sight. Big black holes in the sides of the building and gray and black billows of smoke and flames redder than any red I'd ever seen in my life. Looking up the sides of the building, and you see that. You see furniture, you see paper, you see people being pulled out of the building against their will. Absolutely gruesome, awesome sight. And it was, I was so afraid. I've never felt that afraid before in my life.
Others remained behind mesmerized. At 78, Mary, the woman who asked him to attend the meeting, was calling him.
She wants me to go to the elevator with her. And I kind of politely waved to her, never said a word, turned and went back to the stairwell. And I tell people all the time that was arguably the best decision I've ever made.
Joe was between floors 74 and 72 as United Airlines Flight 175 was quickly descending, its sight set directly on the South Tower. When the plane ripped through the building between floors 77 and 83, it was just 4 floors above Ditmar.
Wow. You're in this concrete bunker of a fire stairwell, and this thing just starts shaking so violently. Concrete was spidering out, and the handrails breaking away from the wall, and the steps like waves in the ocean, undulating underneath our feet. And you feel this heat ball, and you smell this jet fuel, and this thing's rocking and rolling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it felt like forever. But it was probably seconds, maybe a minute, and it had finally stopped.
It was the only moment Ditmar thought he would die. Miraculously, he was left unscathed. At the 35th floor, Joe met the first responders, the cops, firefighters, and paramedics, going up.
Just the looks in their eyes told the whole story without any words being spoken. Just the looks in their eyes. They knew they were going up the steps to try to save lives they couldn't save. And they knew that they were going up those steps to try to fight a fire that they could not beat. And they knew that they were going up and they were never coming back. I don't know how anybody could be that brave. I don't know.
Joe's group finally reached the lobby level, where he saw the aftermath of the attacks. People with gaping wounds, missing limbs, and outside, the red blotches of those who had jumped. Of the 54 who attended the meeting, only 6 others made it out alive. He was 8 blocks north of Ground Zero when the South Tower collapsed. Joe eventually got out of New York on a train, and within 36 hours was back in Aurora, Illinois with his wife and 4 kids. In 2002, Ditmar gave his first presentation, sharing his memories and observations of 9/11. Joe founded the Always Remember Initiative, whose mission is to keep alive the voices, spirits, and memories of the 3,000 victims who perished that fateful day. Ditmar, who lives in North Carolina, gives 50 to 60 talks a year on behalf of the initiative.
I really think that the ability to talk about it has been a catharsis, has been a therapy that has helped me immensely. And it's also given me a reason, a cause.
Joe doesn't accept any money for his talks, but asks that anyone who cares to make a donation send it to the Chatham, North Carolina 9/11 First Responders Memorial. The memorial, which he's helping build, features a donated beam from the World Trade Center. The main lessons he learned from his 9/11 experience are 1. There are no guarantees in life. 2. America is no longer invulnerable to terrorist attacks. 3.
We need to continue to be who we want to be, which is freedom-loving, liberty-loving Americans. We can't give that up.
And 4.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Having an occurrence like this happen in your life makes you realize what really are the priorities in life. It's you, those you love, and your God that are the most important things.
A devout Catholic, Ditmar said his faith never wavered that September day.
And if you didn't believe in divine providence before that day or after that day, you were never going to believe, because you needed the helping hand that I got from the man above. And there's no doubt in my mind. It only strengthened what I already knew.
Dietmar, who has a 9/11 tattoo on his wrist, believes if he reaches just one person in the audience, he's done his job.
Because if somebody remembers and doesn't forget and carries the story of these folks forward, it's a good day. It is my passion. It is my goal. It is my thing that I got to keep doing this.
Joe hopes his always remember and never forget philosophy will continue to live on in the hearts and minds of all Americans this year and on all future 9/11 anniversaries. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
To learn more about Joe Dietmar's speaking engagements or the 9/11 First Responder Memorial Foundation, we have a link at iobserve.org. And still to come on Real to Real, Dan Dumas will be by with a look at what's going on in the Diocese of Springfield. And we'll take you back this summer to Vacation Bible Camp. These stories and more are still to come on Real to Real.
Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passion's Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy days and join us Sunday morning at 10. This week, we welcome Bishop Mitchell Rosansky for our live broadcast from the Big E Fairgrounds. The Chalice of Salvation, your spiritual connection, Sunday morning at 10, right here on TV 22 News.
I'm Dan Dumas with your Real to Real News Briefs. For many parishes impacted by the pastoral planning process, the merger and creation of new parishes risked losing the identity of the founding communities. But that's not the case with One Westfield Parish, which last weekend honored one of its legacy parishes. David Martin reports.
Honoring their Lithuanian and Slovak heritages, more than 200 gathered to celebrate the roots of two founding parishes, St. Peter Parish and St. Casimir Parish in Westfield. A Mass marking the founding of both parishes was celebrated by Springfield Bishop Mitchell T. Rosansky at the now merged church, St. Peter and St. Casimir.
This parish is a testimony to the faith of the Slovak and the Lithuanian people who settled in Westfield. So it means a lot to be here to join with the group today who has come to Mass and to indeed rejoice in the Lord for what has been in the past and what will continue to be in the future.
Bishop Rosansky hopes that many more younger people will join in to take their place as full members of the church. During the Mass, several participants were dressed in traditional clothing of their heritages, such as Nancy Liptak Butler, who is Slovak.
It's just very nice feeling. It's nice to see everybody. This will still be my home.
Butler has many fond memories of being a 20-year parishioner at the former St. Peter Church, including receiving her first communion and being married in the church. Bishop Rosansky told those attending the Mass that parishioners are still familiar with the customs of their ancestors and can rejoice in the faith that has been passed on to future generations. In Westfield, I'm David Martin.
In other news, the need for more vocations to staff parishes remains a priority. Earlier this summer, on the feast of St. John Vianney, the patron saint of priests, prayer services were held to pray for vocations. Carolee McGrath attended one at Mary Mother of Hope Church in Springfield.
On the feast day of St. John Vianney, the patron saint of priests, more than 80 people knelt before Jesus in the Blessed Sacrament at Mary Mother of Hope Parish in Springfield. At the 4th annual Holy Hour for Vocations, people gathered to pray for men and women considering serving the church as a priest or religious brother or sister.
We need to pray for vocations, so we come to the Lord. Jesus says, the harvest is abundant, laborers are few, so ask the master of the harvest. Well, the master of the harvest is Jesus, so what a better way to pray for vocations than have the Holy Hour, to come before Him in His presence in the Eucharist and plead and pray to Him and ask Him for that increase in vocations.
Father Matthew Alcombright is a pastor of St. Mary Mother of Hope Parish. Father Alcombright was ordained a priest in 2012 when he was 27.
Jesus in His presence in the Eucharist, He draws. He draws people. The person is sitting right before you. He's the one that's calling. He's the one that's asking. He's the one that's pleading for us to respond to His call. So we just sit with Him. We sit with Him in prayer.
Newly ordained Father Barrett Pease, the associate pastor of St. Thomas the Apostle Parish in West Springfield, was the guest homilist. Father Pease, ordained to the priesthood in June, served at Mary Mother of Hope Parish as a deacon while he was in the seminary.
When we speak about vocations within the Christian life, we are speaking about God inviting, God offering an invitation to His sons and daughters to follow Him in a unique way, to enter into a unique friendship in accord with a specific state of life.
22-year-old Corinne Murphy, a member of St. Cecilia Parish in Wilbraham, attended the Holy Hour with her grandmother. She's discerning a vocation. Does it bother you that people sometimes question you, like, what are you thinking of?
I think sometimes it can be difficult because people kind of see it as a waste of like a young life. But it gives the opportunity to talk about why it's not a waste and kind of explain the gift that it is to have a vocation and to give your life to God, and how there's really nothing better you can do with your life than what God made you to do.
According to a 2016 study conducted by the Center for Applied Research in the Apostolate, a research center affiliated with Georgetown University, there are about 37,000 priests in the United States and 47,000 religious sisters. Currently, there are 17 men in priestly formation for the Diocese of Springfield. Several of them attended the Holy Hour. Reporting from Springfield, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And 2 weeks ago, Bishop Brzezinski named both Father Alcombright and Father Michael Wood as the new co-directors of vocations, beginning their duties on October 1st. And later this month, Bishop will visit our seminarians in Rome. For full coverage on these events, remember to log on to iobserve.org, where you can always stay informed on the latest news in the Catholic Church locally and beyond. There you can read articles written by our Catholic Communications staff, as well as view archived episodes of Real to Real. That's iobserve.org. I'm Dan Dumas, and those were your Real to Real news briefs.
Well, summer is unofficially over, but many kids in the diocese went back to school with a little more knowledge about the Catholic faith and a lot more joy. They learned all about Christ's love at Vacation Bible School, or Bible Camp as it's also referred to. Carolee McGrath went to visit 2 camps this summer, one at St. Michael's in East Longmeadow and the other at the Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish in Granby, where faith and fun sent campers and counselors home on a Holy Spirit high.
In the sticky July heat, kids at St. Michael's in East Longmeadow found relief on a huge inflatable water slide outside the parish center. It was non-stop activity as more than 130 children ages 4 to 11 moved from one activity to the next at the 13th Vacation Bible Camp held at the church, staffed by 90 volunteers.
I feel like what I've seen in the past 13 camps is children who go from camper to counselor and beyond, and all of us end up having an experience with the Holy Spirit. You can watch the Holy Spirit build from Monday right to Thursday, and by Thursday, campers and counselors alike are full of the Spirit, and it is the most beautiful thing.
Rose Stella is the Director of Religious Education for St. Michael's. Each year, the prep work for the camp is a huge undertaking.
Is a huge amount of work, but we have a lot of volunteers. We have Sue Makarowski and we have Lynn Frappier, who head up the design and the artwork. And then we have volunteers that come and work with us for, I think we get this all done in about 3 weeks, but we literally work day and night.
The curriculum of the camp, Maker Fun Factory, was developed by our Sunday visitor. It included Bible stories and lessons on the lives of the saints. Stella says many of the parents tell them this is their favorite camp of the summer, as kids learn about Jesus when they're singing, playing games, making crafts. Even their snacks are related to the lesson of the day. She says campers typically become more involved in parish life.
We have absolutely seen a continuity between kids who come to Bible camp and who are involved in the parish. Our Little Angels or in CCD classes, and a lot of our volunteers end up joining our youth group. So I feel like it is a nice puzzle piece that fits everything together.
Camp counselor Katie Roeder is also a member of the youth group. She's a senior at East Longmeadow High School.
When the kids come here, their eyes just light up and they learn all these things about God and the world around them. And it's just a wonderful place to come and explore these kids and see them open their minds to Christ.
Here at Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish in Granby, they've been doing Bible camp for 20 years. And this year, the theme is
Created by God, built for a purpose. Yes, God is for me.
Immaculate Heart of Mary chose the same Bible camp as St. Michael's. The volunteers transformed their parish center with colorful decorations and a life-sized robot to make it look like the Maker Fun Factory.
God is always with you. Wow! No matter what you feel.
45 children traveled from Bible stories to crafts to games to snack to music throughout the morning. Father Charles Kuzmeski is the pastor of Immaculate Heart of Mary.
The children inspire us. And like the gospel says, Jesus says, bring the children to me.
Most of the teenage counselors started off as campers.
Yeah, it's cool because you get to be close with the kids and they have a fun time and they get closer to God and make friends, and it's cool.
I do it because it's fun. It also teaches kids more about God.
The campers also collected items and raised money to help children in the Philippines and Liberia. Catherine Buckley Bronner, the director of faith formation and pastoral minister at the parish, says the kids amaze her every year with their knowledge about the faith.
The question that I had asked was, we were talking about God is always with us. And I was reminding the children that, in fact, that was Jesus' promise to us, that he would always be with us. My question was simple, and where do we, on a weekly basis at Mass, find Jesus' presence? And one of the children popped up and said, Holy Communion.
I have to say, as I get older, they keep me young. So through the beautiful songs of VBS and the theme, you can't help but get into the rhythm, the beat. And again, all of it reflects upon God's love and his creation for all of us. And they understand fully at the end of the week, when they're completed on Friday, that they truly will understand and know that God created them, loves them, and that God is always with them. They walk not alone, but God walks with them.
It's a joyful lesson that all Catholics, young and old, need to be reminded of. Reporting for Real to Real, I'm Carolee McGrath.
Looks like all the campers had loads of fun and were able to grow in their faith as well. And for this week, that's Real to Real. As always, to keep up with all of the latest news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, check out our news and information site, iobserve.org. Also, you can friend us on Facebook at Catholic Communications. I will see you next week as we come to you from the Big E in West Springfield. Join us next week at this same time on Real to Real, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.